Gut, ich bin ja der Ortsvorsteher von dem Ort. Es freut mich, Sie kennenlernen zu dürfen.
Ja? Schön.
I especially welcome Ms. Bezornik, Ms. Malamphy, Ms. Levine as descendants of the Sax and Scheuer families. I'm glad that you made the long way from the United States to Bornheim for this special event. Bis zum heutigen Tag wurden bereits 67 Stolpersteine im Stadtgebiet verlegt. Ich freue mich, dass Gunther Demnig, der dieses Kunstprojekt 1996 ins Leben gerufen hat, heute wieder hier ist, um 11 weitere Steine in Bornheim zu verlegen. Er hätte sich nicht träumen lassen, dass er eines Tages die Zahl 100.000 erreichen würde, und das wird nächstes Jahr im Mai der Fall sein. Und das Ganze in 30 Ländern. Das zeigt, wie groß das Bedürfnis der Menschen ist. Hier im Haus Bonner Straße 70 wohnte der aus Metternich stammende Metzger und Viehhändler Michael Scheuer mit seiner Frau Adele, die aus Sindorf stammte. Zusammen hatten sie insgesamt 6 Kinder: Karl, Elisabeth, Hertha, Ernst, Herbert und Kurt. Michael und Adele Scheuer waren noch zusammen mit ihrer Enkeltochter Ruth in Deutschland, als am 10. November 1938 die Bornheimer Synagoge brannte und ihr Geschäft zertrümmert wurde. Ihnen gelang im Mai 1939, nur 4 Monate vor Kriegsbeginn, die Flucht. Ich bin froh, dass wir uns in Bornheim dazu entschlossen haben, Stolpersteine auch für die Menschen zu verlegen, die vor dem nationalsozialistischen Terror fliehen mussten. Denn auch sie waren Opfer des Regimes, weil sie ihre Heimat verloren haben, häufig auch Angehörige, Freunde und Hab und Gut. Hier an der heutigen Sekunderstraße befand sich einst das Zentrum des jüdischen Lebens in Bornheim. Wo heute das Wohnhaus Sekunderstraße 7 steht, befand sich seit dem Ende des 18. Jahrhunderts im Hinterhof des Wohnhauses die erste Synagoge von Bornheim. Nach dem Bau der neuen Synagoge an der Königstraße wurde der einfache Gebetsraum noch bis 1885 als jüdische Religionsschule genutzt und dann abgebrochen. Gleich nebenan stand das Wohnhaus der Familie Katz. Hier wohnten der aus Kall stammende Metzger Moses Katz zusammen mit seiner Frau Sibylla und der gemeinsamen Tochter Martha. Hier wohnte bis 1940 die ältere Dame Amalia Nathan. Noch im Alter von 84 Jahren wurde sie gezwungen, nach Köln zu ziehen. Am 27. Juli 1942 wurde Amalia mit 508 anderen jüdischen Menschen in einen Zug gesperrt und nach Theresienstadt deportiert, wo sie ermordet wurde.
As direct descendants of our family, we're very honored and blessed to be here watching this ceremony. We'd like to thank, of course, the artist for the concept and for being able to participate in this, as well as the donors that have made this possible, and of course the mayor and the city of Bornheim for also having the coordination of making this happening, and certainly with Jens for communicating with us and sending us all the information about it. And we look forward to sending additional information to close the gap a little and provide more information for future generations. Thank you.
Our parents and grandparents were religious. We are all Jewish, and we're less religious, but definitely culturally Jewish. So we do live a Jewish lifestyle. We don't keep kosher. We got bat mitzvahed. We all three got bat mitzvahed. We all had Jewish weddings. So Judaism is, our children were all the boys had brisses. And bar mitzvahed and bat mitzvahed. So it's important to us. It's very important to us, our Judaism.
There are pockets of anti-Semitism here and there. The area we were raised in was close to Baltimore City, not too far from New York. So there was a larger Jewish population, and there were areas within the city that when Jews immigrated, they moved to that neighborhood. So we say, in a way, that we were raised in a ghetto, because in a good way. All of our friends mostly were Jewish. We did go to public school, and in public school, everybody knew about the Jewish holidays. Currently, where we live, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are holidays where the schools are closed. So, yes, there were pockets here and there of anti-Semitism that I think all of us and probably all of our children had here and there, maybe called a name or ridiculed, or perhaps said something like, oh, of course you like money, or as Jens explained to us on our tour this morning, the origins of that here, there's stereotypes of Jewish people. However, we think that it gets a little better all the time, but there's always going to be people we feel that still will hold those grudges and have those stereotypes and fill their hearts with hatred no matter what.
And where we all live now, our children are all raised very differently, where we call it the melting pot, where all religions, all races, so they're growing up very differently than we grew up.
Our mother, Ruth, left when she was 2 years old, so she doesn't have any memories about it. Her parents, Jack and Elsie, didn't talk a lot about it. So we don't have a lot of stories that originate here in Germany. However, we were very close as a family. At one point we lived with them in between homes, and they lived no more than 15 minutes from us our whole lives. So we were very engaged with them as grandparents and tell stories about them, our grandparents, in general, but not their history and their beginnings.
And I think that as an outsider, I'm not a sister, I'm a friend, but I can see the way that when we come to Germany and they learn things about Germany, they say, oh, that's why Mom did this. That's why Grandma did this, because it makes a whole picture from just little pieces of the picture. Does that make sense?
We feel honored to be included in this, and we feel blessed that we could be here. Our mom just passed away, Ruth, in April, and that's how Jens connected with us. So it's just a blessing that we could be here. One thing that stands out to me is from the community, all of the other people who have been here, who I guess still live here and who have family members who lived here, and how emotional and that they are about doing this and, you know, thinking back to the past.
I was surprised when Jen had shared that there was less than 300 Jews in Bornheim in the turn of the 19th century, 20th century, I guess.
Yes.
Because based on just looking at the app with the map, it looked like there were so many more. So the number 6 million Jews were killed, or looking in the map, in my heart made me think that it was more a substantial amount of people. I thought, oh, it's a large percentage of the population, which is incorrect, as we learned this morning. Approximately 1% of the population was Jewish. So we are very honored that the artist has taken on this project, because we learned in public school, plus we all went to religious Hebrew school up until at least 13 years old. We learned a lot about the Holocaust. So to us, we were constantly learning about it, and in a public way, because our grandmother and our mother and grandparents didn't talk about it. So we've all been to a Holocaust museum, we've seen Holocaust memorials wherever we went, but to have the personalized, I think, is very meaningful. I can certainly respect those people that have their opinions and the critics. However, seeing what went on today and how it's personal with one person each block and how each one represents an individual meant even more to me than going to a memorial that represents a large amount of people.
Yeah. And we were actually in Amsterdam for a couple days coming here, and we were just touring around, and we stumbled upon a stumble block, and we were like so excited about it, and you know, took pictures of it. It was like, this is what we're going to Bornheim for.
I think it's more modern and today. We know the history. We appreciate modern Germany and trying to make right the wrongs. That, to me, that feels very important. I know there are people who don't want to come to Germany because of the history, and younger people too. We met the neighbors across the street who hid
Her grandparents.
our mother and her grandparents during Kristallnacht. So that was also very...
Yeah. And she also told us how her mom would talk about that she was the same age as our uncle, our mother's brother, and how they would ride bikes together down the street and go to the park.
Yes. And after everything started happening and he left, she cried and cried because she missed her good friend.
Yeah, and she also says, so the lady down the street, it's her grandmother was 6 years old at the time of Kristallnacht. She told us the story that her grandmother said and she pointed to the window. It was right across the street from where the stumbling blocks were placed, that her grandmother said she was standing at the window and watched and saw what happened during Kristallnacht and just sat up there at 6 years old crying, witnessing that this was happening to the people that she knew living across the street.
Friends.
I'm a mental health counselor, therapist, and I think this is very healing, not only for the families that were affected, but also for Germans as a whole, because even though you weren't there, your parents weren't there, your grandparents may have been alive, you still feel a shame and a sense of responsibility. They still feel a deep sadness, and it's healing to bring the two together, to fill in the pieces that were missing, for them to see you as kind human beings, and for you to see them as people who lost loved ones. So I think it's healing both ways. It's healing for the whole community.